So today I want to talk about Dachshund Structure or Dachshund conformation. Um, if you've ever bought a Dachshund and ordered a pedigree, you get a paper that looks like this. It has the perfect structure of what a Dachshund should look like in long hair, smooth, and wire. What I did was I took that infographic and I drew shapes onto one of the dachshunds, specifically the wire hair because he was at the front. I don't know if you can see him. See? You can see the orange. And this is what I end up getting. I will put that back on the screen for you in a second. Let me just talk about it. So, dachshunds are made up of different shapes. You get squares, triangles, circles and ovals mostly, and I think a trapezoid for their neck. When you're looking at purchasing a dachshund for a breeding program, these are the shapes in these specific areas that you should be looking for when it comes to conformation. Now, a lot of us buy our breeding stock when they're puppies. Which can be super hard to find these shapes in a puppy because they change as they grow. They might look wonderful as a puppy, and then they hit their teenage months, and they look wonky, and then they're an adult, and they look better again. They grew well. Or you get a puppy that looks amazing, and they hit their teenage months, and then they hit their adult, and they never got better. Like, they stayed wonky like a teen. Or vice versa. They looked like a funky puppy, and then they got really pretty. Now, it's not a crapshoot if you're buying from specific lines. You can look at parents, you can look at grandparents, and you can kind of decide or kind of just know what you're expecting a puppy to look like. But when you're a pet breeder, which I don't believe pet breeders should just be breeding willy-nilly. I think we should be trying to breed to the standard because we want our dachshunds to look like dachshunds, right? We don't want you weenie-looking dachshunds. And that's not to say that we're even mixing dachshunds with other breeds. It's just sometimes when you breed willy-nilly or without consideration to what you're putting together, bitch and stud or bitch and dog, you end up with really pinched nose or really bad top lines, their backs, tiny little legs that look like they belong on a chihuahua that are super long. Like, you want to avoid those things because we're trying to breed dachshunds and they might just be pets. We might have no plans to go into the show, but we should still be doing our best because we represent our breed and there are a lot more pet breeders than there are show breeders, so we should be doing our best. So about when you're a pet breeder purchasing breeding dogs, like I said, with a show breeder, you kind of know what you're going to get. You expect a certain thing. With a pet breeder, it is a crapshoot. You don't know what you're going to get. They never breed consistently. And as a pet breeder, that can be really tough because it really messes with the whole let's breed towards the structure goal because you never know what you're going to get. So the best thing you can do is try to breed consistently to the conformation, which you can find almost anywhere online. It's the AKC standard, and if you're breeding any breed of dog, you should know your standard, regardless of if you're a pet breeder or a show breeder. You can focus on certain things as a pet breeder, like you really want your top line to be straight. Start working on that. Find other dogs that have straight top lines and breed for that. You can really work on the angles of the hocks, the depth of the chest, the length of the whatever thigh. There's all kinds of things, and I'm going to show you in a little bit what some of them are called. If you focus on these things, don't forget the other things as your program improves, then you can breed beautiful dachshunds too that are structurally correct. You don't just have to breed for color. You don't just have to breed for health, although that is very important. You can do it all, and it might take you a decade. It might take you 20 years, and you might improve a pet line that was a nobody knew about it except other pet breeders, into something that could win in the show ring. Now, you might not ever have any desire to show, but don't you have a desire for your dachshunds to look like dachshunds? So let's start with the head. It is a circle, and next the ears are triangles. The muzzle is a polygonal shape. It has no specific shape, but they are pretty hard to mess up when you're breeding a dog. The neck can be a trapezoid or a square. It just depends on what you're going for when you're breeding. The chest from the side is a circle, but when you look at a dachshund from the front, it is an oval. It goes down low between the front legs. The back hip and thigh is an oval, while the front legs and the back legs can be rectangles, with paws being right triangles. You can also see in the back hock, which is the back elbow, that it is a right angle. It is really straight. Also, the tail can be considered a triangle. I literally copied this from the AKC infographic, as you can see right here. And that's what you need to look for when you're looking for a breeding dog. So now I want to talk about the different parts of a dachshund's structure. You will hear these things brought up a lot if you ever ask for your dog to be evaluated in a conformation group. The first thing that I'm going to talk about is the hocks. They are almost a 90-degree angle, and if you were to compare a dachshund's hock and paw to a human's foot, it is a human's foot. It's the toes with the hock being the heel. The next thing is the bend of stifle, which is actually the patella, which is actually a knee. These can be short or too long, and it will really affect the way a dachshund's top line looks or the way the hocks look. They have to be good together. The next thing is the top line, which is also just known as the back, but most people who show dogs will call it a top line. You want it to be almost like level. Should be able to set a table on it pretty much. You'll hear it brought up a lot when people see that your dog has a roach back, or if your dog has too long of hocks, they will have a rise in their top line. While not a roach back, it's still incorrect and hard to obtain in pet puppies. This whole thing in the front where you connect the front legs to the chest, and the chest has to be an oval, and where the neck connects and how it all looks when it moves is called the front assembly. You might hear that mentioned a little bit, but really I hear that mentioned more often in other breeds. Now, what I'm trying to draw right now is called the depth of chest. It is not drawn correctly, so don't put a whole bunch of water in my drawing, but definitely go look up the standard and look up other people's drawings of dachshunds, because they are important. This is the prominent bone that sticks out on your dachshund's chest, and it can be really hard to obtain with a pet quality dog. Their chest won't drop properly, or it won't stick out properly, and they'll have a shallow chest, meaning it just doesn't look like a dachshund. Dachshunds have massive chests. So look for all these things when you're looking to purchase a puppy. So, the last thing I want to talk about, well, there's a couple last things. One being the teeth. The teeth are important for breeding a good quality dog. You want them to kind of scissor, I think is the term. You don't want their teeth sticking out too far, and you don't want their bottom jaw sticking out. That's an underbite, and the other one's an overbite. And you also don't want their canine teeth to be like poking into their gums, which might mean they have to be removed. And you don't want a dog that's losing teeth for no reason when they're supposed to be adult teeth. It's kind of hard to correct a bite. It's really easy to pass on the terrible genetic bite, even if you're breeding it to a dog with a good bite. Sometimes dogs don't exercise enough. I mean, they're a lot like people, especially if they're pets. If you're a breeder, though, you should exercise your dogs at least a walk a day, even if you just, or throw the ball for them to go fetch, just something to keep them moving and active, because the more you sit, the stiffer you get, and the more your muscles kind of phase out. You get lazy, pretty much. And the dog, it can happen to your dog too. So sometimes you'll hear people say, wow, that dog has really flat feet. What this means is they're like this. This is supposed to be a dachshund's paw. They're supposed to have nice, tight paws that are not splayed. When they're splayed, they're like that. They're open. They should be tight. They shouldn't be open. And when they're flat, they're like, instead of like this, they're like this. You don't want a dog with a flat paw. It's really bad for their paws. Now, you can correct these things. It's not always to do with structure. Sometimes it's because they're just lounging around instead of getting some exercise. You can take them for walks on pea gravel or just gravel in general, as long as it's not like super big gravel that they're not going to get any pressure on when they're walking. You want them to be working. Like, you know how when you run on the beach barefoot, your feet burn because you're using a muscle in your foot that you don't usually use? Same thing for dachshunds. If they're not using that muscle, it gets flat. It gets not used. So look at your dogs. I know a couple of my dogs have some flat feet that we need to work on. And I see flat feet in some of my friends, breeders' dogs or whatever. Just look at your dogs when they're standing in a stack or just standing relaxing and say, wow, is that a flat foot? Could we work out a little bit more together? Or say, wow, that foot looks nice. Maybe they're not flat-footed at all. That's totally good. You should work on that. Which is why in my picture, I drew their feet as 90-degree angles. Instead of a rectangle or a square, because they are tight. They should be tight. Remember, this is kind of like the end of the video, so just remember to really look at confirmation. Read the standard. There are no pictures in the standard, but that doesn't mean that you can't learn something from it. Highlight things that really catch your eye, like well, now we're not talking about color here because there's a lot. I'm going to make another video on color and patterns. But read the structure. Read what it says about the perkiness of the dachshund's face and the shape of the eyes. Oh my God. I forgot to mention the shape of the eyes. Okay. Dachshunds should have almond-shaped eyes. Now, when you think of an almond, do you think of a circle? No. An almond, I'm just going to draw it right here on this paper. An almond is almost like a diamond or a rhombus, but without points on the extra sides. This is an almond shape. This is what your dachshund's eyes should look like. Now, in the pet world, there's no such thing as an almond eye. That sounds wrong. I'm sure there are show breeders for minis. So, there are tons of dachshunds with almond eyes. But when you're a pet breeder, it's hard to find them because they're not always easy. That's usually they belong to the show breeders, and the show breeders don't always sell to pet breeders. So, try and breed a dog with almond eyes. Try to obtain that because they should not have buggy eyes popping out of their skull. They're not Chihuahuas. Their eyes should not be round. Now, I'm going to show you different eyes on my own dogs, and I will point out what's more closely accurate to the structure standard than a round eye. So let me go get one of them. Okay, this is Jules, as many of you know. She is all black and stinky. But she's actually a black and tan, but we're not talking about color today. So I'm not going to talk too much about it. But look at her eyes. Let me see if I can get her. Hi, baby. See how her eyes aren't super round? They're very almondy looking. See? Hi, beautiful. She has decent eyes for a pet bred / mini dachshund. And she's so sweet. She is a lovey. I love her. Now let me go get you one of my dogs that has round eyes. So this is Chorizo. His original name was Bellamy, but they changed it. I'm just pet sitting him right now. Chorizo has pretty round eyes. Let me see, baby. Come here. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. See his... See how his eyes are pretty round? I'm sorry, I'm talking right in your ear. His eyes are very round. And he's from my own breeding. So while his dad has more almond-shaped eyes, his mom had rounder eyes. And because of that, he has round eyes. And while he has round eyes, he's not even the worst that I've seen. There are some dogs, like I said, that have their eyes almost popping out of their head because their eyes are so round. So when selecting a dog, also look at their eyes. Now, I know this is a lot to remember, all these different things. So just focus on one. Look for dachshunds that have almond eyes. Look for dachshunds that have nice top lines. And go from there. Add as you go. Take 20 years to improve your program. It's a process, and that's okay, because we all want to be better. We're not in this to make money. There's no money to breeding. It all goes back into the dogs. So just remember to try and do better as you're breeding, and I hope this confirmation video helped you even just a little bit. If it didn't help you because I'm wrong, then good. Take the fact that I'm wrong and go research the standard and other pictures to prove me wrong. That's okay. Post in the comments. Say you're wrong about the depth of chest. That's not what it is, and your drawing's wrong. This is what it should really look like. That's good, because that means you're learning because you took the time to go look it up. So thank you for watching if you watched the whole video, and leave a comment or a like, and thank you so much. Bye.